Hello one and all, this is Soulful Lordy, James Bullock, once again with another video game first impressions. This time around, Marvel's Avengers beta review for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. The Square Enix Crystal Dynamics produced Marvel Avengers adaptation is close to being here, and now we get one of 3 beta sequences that will allow players from around the world to work alongside each other, playing as either the Hulk, Black Widow, Iron Man, or Ms. Marvel, in an attempt to do some random missions, maybe progress the story. But after a harrowing start where you are allowed to play as Thor, Iron Man, Black Widow, Hulk, and Captain America, the game dials everything back, and you're first left with a tutorial section featuring just Hulk and Ms. Marvel, where you actually have a great boss fight with the Abomination and the Hulk. And then after that, you really see a lot of what the core game is going to be from what I've seen thus far in the beta. I understand that there may be, and more than likely will be, a lot more when it comes to the mission structure in correlation with the story presentation. I definitely get that. But from what I've seen thus far, from what I experienced with the beta, a lot of what this game is a solid story that doesn't have that much going for it in terms of runtime, and a bunch of missions rooted in the idea of going in, smashing up some robots or some random goons, and staying in one spot, holding down the square button in the case of the PS4, and trying to progress a mission that may last no more than 5, 10, 20, or maybe even 30 minutes, with the majority of the missions barely lasting 5 minutes. And this is made even more problematic when it takes longer to get a game started than it does to actually complete a mission. A majority of the time you will find players that are ready, but then the game may not actually load up, or the mission may not actually load up, or certain people just don't have the sense to hit the I'm ready button, or the launch mission button in this case. And you'll be sitting and you'll be waiting, and eventually you'll get into a game. And then there are also times when you get into a game and everything will just fall apart from a connectivity perspective. I had one mission where it was me and an Iron Man player, and the Iron Man player just ran into a wall, and next thing you know, he was gone. So there are times that things like this will happen. Thankfully, the game is smart enough, and I will definitely give the developers kudos for this. If you lose connection, or someone loses connection to you, whoever that character was being played as will be immediately replaced with an AI partner. So you will not lose Iron Man if the person that's playing as Iron Man so happens to drop out. You will still have Iron Man on your team. The biggest hook when it comes to the gameplay is the loot. The randomly generated stuff that you get as you play throughout the game that will allow for whatever character you're playing as to get upgradable loot, be it gauntlets, or in the case of the Hulk, a new spine, that will up the power of whatever character is being utilized and whatever loot is being attained. From a gameplay perspective, it's very simplistic. You have your light strikes, your heavy strikes. You mix those up to hopefully confuse the opponents and land some really good combos. Certain opponents, like those who have shields, need to have their shields broken with a charged up heavy attack, which sometimes can be really detrimental to the player because the opponents will hit you way before you can unleash that attack. And that means, of course, lost health and having to do it all over again. There are ranged attacks for each playable character. For example, Ms. Marvel actually extends her hands and arms to perform her ranged attacks, whereas the Hulk just picks up a big piece of rock and throws it at whatever you're aiming for. Each character has 3 super special attacks that can be activated by utilizing the bumper buttons. They all fill up during the course of each fight and each mission. Depending on which one you use, they are absolutely fantastic. Ms. Marvel can grow gigantic. The Hulk can just go forward and grab whatever's in front of him and slam him down. And Thor, of course, can summon lightning and strike any opponent that's in his range. Really, those are the best moments of all of the fights. If you had the ability to get those super special maneuvers, and usually save them back for the big hordes or a big boss that's coming up. It's such a fun thing to do. I was playing a majority of the time with Miss Marvel because with her stretchy arms, with her really Mr. Fantastic style of gameplay, I really did enjoy playing as Miss Marvel, and she really is the focus of the entire story from what I've seen thus far, being this Avengers super fan that now becomes a superhero herself. The Hulk is really fun to play as when you're just running around smashing things, though he's a little slow, and it feels like when it comes to the dodge mechanic, it doesn't work as well with him as it does with other characters. Iron Man to me will definitely take some getting used to, and out of all the characters I played with, he was the least favorite for me personally, mostly because a lot of his repertoire is connected to flying, and to me the flying mechanics aren't the best. I really did enjoy playing with Thor and Black Widow. Black Widow is a counter fighter with guns, whereas Thor of course has his hammer and really a lot of power. Unfortunately, you don't get that much time with Captain America, and he was okay for the amount of time that I did get a chance to play with him. Overall, I came out of this game not feeling the best when it comes to the overall presentation. Mostly because I understand this is presented as a games as a service experience. But when it comes to the narrative, when it comes to the presentation, when it comes to the story, it doesn't seem like there's going to be a lot to really hang your hat on. And it's made for people who love looter shooters. It's made for people who love to grind for loot. And not necessarily those players that'll be happy to see a video game adaptation of the Avengers very similar to what we got with the Spider-Man game. I think for gamers who are looking forward to that kind of experience, but with the Avengers, we're not going to get it. But if you're into just random mundane missions that feature a lot of gear drops and loot with minimal story and just having fun with your friends, I think this will be a actually very fun game to play once in a while, but not something that's going to be a standard for multiplayer games for 2 or 3 years down the road. But I will give it another chance, see what the third beta has to offer, if anything different, and of course I will be there when the game fully comes out to give my first impressions of that. So there you have it. This has been so full lordy. James Bullock once again with another video game first impressions. Marvel's Avengers beta review for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. Now if you don't mind, I have to get my costume ready, I have to get my powers in check, because if I have to go into battle and summon some thunder and lightning or just become elastic, my foes will have no choice but to say, "Oh lordy."